Hello everybody, my name is Scoop and today I will be providing you with one of the best iPad Pro 2018 reviews you will ever see on the whole internet. Now you may be wondering, why am I reviewing a 2018 unit when it is very late into 2019, almost 2020? That is because this thing right here, this very interesting tablet, laptop, computer-y thing, it is very special. And it took me a whole year to gather my thoughts about what this thing really is. Is it worth buying? Is it a computer? Is it a tablet? Today, you will learn all of those answers, and more answers, in my review of the 2018 iPad Pro. I am ready to get into the nitty-gritty details about what makes this iPad so unique and whether or not you should buy it. Welcome to the best iPad Pro 2018 review in all of YouTube. Hold up, people, I forgot something that may or may not be considered very critical to this iPad review. The mouse. That is right, with iOS 13, aka iPadOS on here, you can now use a mouse on your weird iPad laptop tablet jigger. You may have noticed, this is a very weird setup. This is not a table. This is school supplies. That is because my setup is basically not very good. So I put this together in like 10 minutes because all of you out there need to know what is so ding-dong special about this iPad right here, and I want to show you as soon as possible. So let's get into it. Now the reason I waited so long to review this iPad is because I was ready to review it, but then iPadOS hit the universe, and everything, and I mean everything about this device changed. There was mouse support, there was desktop Safari. Now I know I just played that as a joke, but I am not kidding. Mouse support and desktop Safari truly changed the game for this device. Without it, there was zero chance I could possibly recommend this to somebody. Now I wanted, before iPadOS came out, to get used to using the Apple Pencil as my mouse, to get used to always touching the screen, to just get used to everything. But then that all changed once I had a real mouse and real desktop Safari and I wasn't relying on all the Google apps. Now I will say, these Google apps, they are not bad. For example, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, Google Slides, all of that. But you just cannot beat the desktop version. The mouse is basically just a virtual finger. It looks weird, it's kind of like a little circle. I want to see, I'm doing a test. I haven't gone to the mouse settings in a very long time, so I want to see if I remember how to get there, because it is multiple layers deep. So it's accessibility, touch, assistive touch, devices, and then that's how you get to the mouse. And if you click on the mouse, then you get all of your settings. And then you can change the size of your mouse to be humongous. I don't know why you would ever need something this big. I keep it at the smallest size because you don't really need a mouse that big on an iPad. And the color blue, and then you can change the auto hide, which basically means once you stop touching it, how long it takes to disappear. I have mine at 1 second, because chances are if I'm letting go of it, I don't really need it sitting on the screen right there, which is pretty nice actually. I will say I like the auto hide options. But I find it very strange how deep into settings you have to go to get to it, because I think if you're using this thing as your laptop replacement, you 100% cannot use this without a mouse. I used it without a mouse for a little under a year, almost like 10 months, except, plus summer off, which I didn't use it too much. And I really don't think I could go back, because this iPad without a mouse, it really can't be a laptop replacement. So basically, this is your brand new iPadOS home screen right here. And what's all new is that these boys, these little icons, are very small, okay, and they're small in the whole device. But you also get this home page right here if you want, which I find very useful, because it's nice to see your weather, your screen time, some of the apps you're using, and all of your device battery lives, which are very useful. I didn't even know it showed the mouse until right now, which is also very useful. The home page only shows that little side tab if you rotate it to the side like that, which isn't really a big deal. If you're like this, you don't really need it, but it's just nice to have it there. There's also another setting where it might not always be there. It's keep on the home screen. Why am I showing you this? I don't know. It's because there's a screen recording and I'm dumb. But what you can do is unselect to keep on home screen, and that means you can swipe away. So if you instantly go to your home screen and you're like, hey, I don't really need it, or you can swipe to the side and then you got it back. And I also just think it's nice to have your very specific apps right here, like for example, the camera app or the photos app. Some apps I don't use that often, but are essential to the iPad experience, like your calendar, or as I said before, or maybe some apps that I just want on here every once in a while. What else has changed is, like I said before, desktop class Safari, which is very nice, and I already have a website open. But essentially, you do get what it sounds like, desktop Safari. So for example, I can go to Google Docs, and boom, I have all my documents right here, and I can just click on them and, edit it like it's the full desktop, which is very different from the Google Docs app, which is fine. I did like it, and for a while I actually thought it was better than desktop, but once I had desktop on here, I totally changed my mind. I was wrong. But what you might be saying is, hey, couldn't you just use Google Docs on like the Chrome app before, the Safari app before? But I still have the Google Chrome app, which is not desktop Safari, or not desktop Google Chrome, and it's in dark mode. It's not incognito. I might also want to add, there is dark mode on here, which I love, and it is very nice. But here's what happens if you go to Google Docs on the old apps. It will only allow you to download the Google Docs app, which, as I have been over before, is not that good. So, desktop class Safari, if this would work, there we go, is very, very, very nice. What I must say is also pretty nice, especially if you're going in for those long typing journeys, whether you're a student writing an essay, or you're a professional writer, going to sit down for a couple hours, or even if you just need to jot down some notes every once in a while. The iPad's keyboard is very good. It is a very clicky keyboard. It is actually pretty similar to the MacBook and MacBook Pro and MacBook Air, all those laptop keyboards, the butterfly keyboards, except there's significantly more travel, I would say almost double, and there's some space between the keys, so they're not these big squares that all are against each other. There's some space between, they're smaller, they have rounded edges, more travel. They're still pretty clicky and loud, I will say, but I definitely like that better. I think this keyboard is very nice. But what I don't think is very nice is the keyboard case as a whole. What I mean by that is the cover for the iPad. So this part here and in the back, and how you can switch between having it straight up, which is how I use it the majority of the time. But you can also go like this if you're standing at a different angle. And what really confuses me is with most of the reviews out there, they're using it like this. And this is very uncomfortable because it is pointing way too high up for my liking. So I'll just switch that back real quick. There we go. And another problem I have with this is that even though the keyboard itself is good, you will see that this beast of a keyboard for this beast of an iPad is $200. And that is just wrong. This keyboard it gets gross very easily. I don't know if you could pick it up on the camera, but there are so many fingerprints and smudges, and it looks greasy, and stuff like sticks to the bottom. There's like crumbs and stuff I can't get off of here. There's some tears on the little hinge here, but I will add that it gives you a very nice keyboard in a very small package, but the price is just ridiculous. Either drop the price and leave it how it is, or make it a better just cover in general that holds up much better. Now, you might think after a year, just a couple of tears here and there is to be expected, but most of these actually showed up pretty quickly and have just gotten bigger over time, or there's been a couple new ones that are still relatively small. It is incredibly frustrating that they want this to be a laptop replacement when there are only two arbitrary places to put your laptop. You can't have it straight up, you have it about halfway, and then at this like big angle that I've only used a handful of times, either besides when I'm drawing, which, I mean, having it at a big angle like this would be nice, but if it could go at an even bigger angle for drawing, that would also be good. Although that's a pretty unique thing that I don't think a lot of people are gonna have an issue with. It would have been really cool if it simply attached magnetically like this, and then maybe they pushed the keyboard up a little, gave us a tiny little baby trackpad, and it was a full hinge. To be completely honest, this iPad is already insanely expensive, so to add another $200 for what is basically required for this iPad to really be used to its full potential is pretty ridiculous. I will say, whoever came up with the idea of the Apple Pencil magnetically attaching to the top and charging that way It's a very smart idea in theory. In practice, however, there really should be another place to keep it. For example, if I'm sitting with my Apple Pencil on top of the iPad while I am, just typing away, and all of a sudden I want to pick it up, maybe highlight something in Google Docs, or just use it as like my mouse really quickly because I didn't have my mouse out at the moment. It's very nice. This one has some dents along the side that'll be kind of hard to pick up on camera. And it's just, I feel like for such an expensive piece of hardware, it would be nice if there was somewhere more secure to keep it. Like for example, I don't feel safe putting this in my backpack because I think what happens if it falls off and somehow gets, hit the wrong way and breaks in half. But I will say, I put a screen protector on it. I think it's called Paper-like, except be very careful because the Apple Pencil tips are not cheap, and I'm convinced that this Paper-like screen protector does wear these down very quickly. And I will also say, do not drop your Apple Pencil because this has happened to me more than once at this point, and I cannot believe it myself. If it lands at the right angle, I don't know where I'm going over here, directly on the floor, it will bend the tip, and the tip will not work unless you have it pointed straight down at your iPad, which of course, no one writes like this. You use it at an angle. So I would say that is very weird. And the tips, maybe you don't have to make them free, Apple, but $25 for this, a little steep, I might say. Something I find extremely good on the iPad Pro is Microsoft OneNote. Now, I will say that this is a battery killer, especially on light mode, and you can actually feel where the battery is. I think it's right around here, or it's in the corner, I kind of forget, but it gets very warm and you can actually feel it through the iPad screen. So I keep mine on dark mode, which doesn't look very good on OneNote, but when I'm at home and I have my charger over there, it's fine. And what I love about this is I mostly use it in math class, but I also sometimes use it in chemistry. That's also math. Chemistry, I also take Hebrew, which is good because typing in Hebrew on the keyboard is an absolute nightmare, I will say, for anybody who takes Hebrew. And writing on this with the iPad, especially with the paper-like screen protector, it's very nice. So for example, the teacher will put a question on the board, I'll look up, and this will be my pen and paper. And it also saves a lot of space in my binder. For example, look how many pages of notes I would have. And we're only a quarter of the way into the school year. And plus, you can just keep scrolling and keep making these pages longer and longer, which obviously will save you even more space because these would probably add up to be like, probably around a full page of notes, but maybe I have notes that are very long or I want to keep adding to them. It makes it much easier. And you can also use the Apple Pencil. If you tap right there, it switches from whatever pencil or tool or highlighter or whatever you're using to the eraser. You can also switch it to a setting where it switches between what you previously used and what you just switched to. And another piece of hardware that I think is very smart, and this one is in theory and in practice, definitely deserves some pat on the back, is the smart connector right here on the back of the iPad that is used to work the keyboard. This means that you don't have to rely on a Bluetooth connection, and it also means that you don't have to worry about charging the keyboard, and it simply takes its power from the iPad, which I think is also how they managed to get the keyboard so nice and light because they didn't have to include a battery in it. It just works off the iPad Pro. And no, that's not a downside because A, I know from experience with my old iPad that had a Bluetooth keyboard with a battery, that keyboard batteries tend to last very long and don't need that much charge for a keyboard. And the iPad's battery life is very long, so it doesn't seem to steal too much power from the iPad. And neither does the Apple Pencil, I might add. My next point is the speakers, which I have to say are amazing. There are 2 speakers on each side of the iPad, not long ways, only short ways, but I mean, that's not really a complaint. And obviously included in the bezel, there's no speaker because you're not holding this up to your ear to make a phone call, so it's not necessary. But whoever designed these speakers did an incredible job. I use this iPad in the shower, which sounds weird. I put it next to the shower on the table, it doesn't matter. I play music while I'm in the shower from my iPad, and it sounds incredible. I love the speakers on this thing. They get incredibly loud, which is good for watching Rick and Morty with my friends in the hallways during lunch. Okay, I think you get the point. The speakers on this are very, very good for either Netflix or Spotify or whatever you want to watch. Maybe if you just got Disney Plus, which I also recommend. It's very good, very worth the price. Whatever you're watching or listening to, speakers work. I do find it very odd that there's no headphone jack, especially considering it is a, of course, pro device, and a lot of professionals like to use headphones with a headphone jack. But I do understand that the reason is, A, because it is so thin and light, which I do like, but does lead to bending, which I have not experienced, but I am genuinely concerned about a lot of the time. And also because, they need the space on the inside for all the technology that they crammed in here. Like I said, this might be the best iPad Pro review on the entire internet, because I spent a whole year using this as my laptop. Now, what are my final thoughts? Is this a laptop replacement? Is it not? Should you buy it? Should you not buy it? Here we go. This is a laptop replacement for a majority of people. If you are actually a professional, which makes it weird that it's called the iPad Pro, for example, somebody who's constantly video editing or photo editing, this is useless to you because Premiere Rush is not good, iMovie on here is not good, Photoshop on here, it's fine, it works pretty well. There's zero advantages to just using a normal laptop. If anything, there's significant disadvantages because keyboard shortcuts don't work very well. And before you ask, no, you cannot play Fortnite with a keyboard and mouse on here. Yes, this can be a laptop replacement, but there's one thing that I have not mentioned beyond the keyboard during this video, and that is the price of the iPad Pro. This fully maxed out the way I have it with a terabyte of storage, the largest size, the keyboard, the Apple Pencil, and the mouse is more than a laptop, which is mind-blowing to me, and I didn't even think about until recently. There is no reason to buy this if you could use a laptop when it's actually more expensive than a laptop. There are a lot of disadvantages that I see a lot of students especially running into using this over a normal laptop. For example, you need to buy a separate mouse. The Files app is fine. I really don't see it as a replacement for the Finders app because Finder app, because there's just a little less options. There's no saving pictures or anything to your desktop. They're all in Photos or in Files. There's just a lot of stuff you're missing that would obviously just be on a normal computer. And when you think about the fact this is more expensive than, for example, a MacBook Air, there's just no reason to buy it. If you need a tablet and you don't need a laptop replacement, then get the normal iPad. It is borderline cheap for what it is, actually. I'm genuinely surprised. The normal iPad seems pretty spectacular considering how powerful it is, the screen size, the battery life, and the fact it's less than $400. The fact that the iPad mini that's been out for a couple of years now is more expensive than it makes no sense to me at all, and I don't think I'm ever going to understand that. That iPad is a steal. If you need an iPad, that is the iPad to get. This thing right here, yes, it is insanely powerful, and there's things that can justify the price, but there's just no reason for most of it. If you're doing normal schoolwork, just Google Docs on Safari, or you're just doing normal work on here that you would do on a normal laptop, there's more power than you really need, and that causes the price to go up, which makes it more expensive than it really needs to be. And that is why I really, as much as I love this thing, just cannot recommend it. There is no reason to buy it. That is the final review. That is the decision. Sorry, everybody who said, yeah, this is fine, you could buy it. Especially once, iPad OS came out. It's a laptop replacement, except it doesn't make any sense to buy at the moment. So don't do it. Do not get the iPad. Get a MacBook Air. It'll probably actually be cheaper than this with all the accessories, actually, now that I think about it, if you get both of them, which is double ridiculous. But those are the final thoughts. This is the most time spent on a review. Lou, I got your 2 months beat, okay?
Don't do it. Do not. I love this. Don't buy it. Don't do it. It'll bend in your backpack. Do not do it. And this is also my second iPad because my first one broke and Apple couldn't even figure out what was wrong with it. And they had to give me a free replacement, which I'm not actually going to complain about. The battery life is amazing. Do not buy it. There's so many compliments I could give this thing. Do not buy it. Thank you for watching, and good night.